talking to Makrus Demaria, product manager and e-mobility expert here at HMS. Why HMS, Markus?
Well, good question. HMS is there for already 30 years, more than 30 years. We are there as experts in factory automation. We are there for more than 15 years as experts in vehicle or automotive communication. So we are there on both playing fields.
So why is this new need emerging?
There are lots of reasons for that. The new need comes on the first thing out of the need for decarbonization. So we all know that global warming and all the effects, we have to do something as humanity against that. That means more and more electric mobility or new electric vehicles are coming to the market to bring down carbon dioxide, to reduce global warming at the long end. So that means the change of propulsion away from ICE, combustion engines, to electric engines. That's a big hype. That's something which is going really, really big. And there's a lot of communication, technical communication going in there. We are experts for the technical communication, so that's exactly our playing field.
Let's take a look at the future. Is the future development positive, and why?
Well, it's absolutely positive. The future development, well, we see on the market, on all the systems that we see the need of electric propulsion. Decarbonization brings more and more electric mobility into all of our lives. So passenger vehicles, trucks, even buses are going more and more electric. And that means all these things need to be controlled, need to be communicated with, and it's exactly our area of expertise. So the more communication happens, the better for us, because we are one of the experts, if not the expert here.
There's a big hype of batteries right now, but what happens if this big hype is over?
Well, the trend behind that is the need of decarbonization. And battery may be an intermediate step, but what will be next? So the general aim of decarbonization will be persistent. So even if batteries or electric drives would disappear, the next step could be hydrogen propulsion. If you take fuel cells, also, so the energy generated out of fuel cells needs to be buffered in batteries. So batteries being charged from a grid, a network, power supplies, they will be charged in future by fuel cells. So the battery itself will persist over, I would say, more than 1 to 2 decades.
Markus, there's a new energy trend worldwide. What does that mean for us?
Well, that means the new energy vehicles, as they are called today, not only electric or battery-powered vehicles, that's a global trend. We have started here, as we are out of Europe, of course, with our European companies, but we see even a stronger trend in the US, and the strongest trend we see at the moment in Asia, namely in China. And it's very interesting for us to become even more active on the Asian markets, to find more customers there, to help the industry there, to solve their communication needs.
There are big players in the automotive industry, and you work with some of them. Where are the differences?
The differences is more or less in the way, if you have a combustion engine, that's more or less a mechanical thing. As long as you have the process under control, it's much too cumbersome to test each and every engine over the full range of the lifespan and about the expected values that the engine is going to provide. So you don't do that because you have the process under control. With the electric vehicle, on the one hand, you have the process under control, but on the other hand, you want to provide quality to your customers. So that means with the reduced overall complexity, it's easier to test each electric battery, each electric engine during production to provide optimal quality to the customers. And that's a change for us. And we are seeing that not only by our customers coming from the classical vehicle production and development thing, but also from new disruptive players. I cannot name them right now because most of them we are under NDA, but let's say we have disruptive players with within our customer base that are producing only electric vehicle, and they change also with their production, with that type of production. They're doing new ways, and it's also interesting to accompany those companies in their new way of producing. Also, where we can learn a lot of things. When you test the battery, you want to make, of course, sure that the quality of the battery is good enough, that the lifespan is expected or is fulfilling the expected length. But there are other things like security things. And with security, I do not mean the hacker wanting to hack the battery. It's really like you want to make sure that in the hopefully unlikely event of a crash, the battery will get the signal to emergency shutdown to stop any energy flow and to make the battery silent and passive to reduce any further hazard out of a crash in terms of, setting the chassis under voltage, which you definitely want to avoid.
Okay. So testing is absolutely relevant.
It's absolutely relevant. And testing every piece. Not only just, the prototype, but really in production, every piece to make sure that the security mechanisms are working on every piece of the car produced.
You told me last week you had a call with one of these companies.
Yeah.
How is it to work with them?
Interesting. Well, why is it interesting? Because they start not from a point where they say, okay, that's the way we have already done that, and we want to do it like this. They just say, okay, what is there on the market? We have solution A, B, C. Let's pick what is there and let's combine it and make something new out of that.
Okay.
Interesting approach.
How can you help them?
Well, we are a provider of exactly those standard components. Sometimes they are working out of the box. Sometimes we need to adapt them according to their needs. And sometimes we can even provide them a solution due to the experience we have with other companies. I say, okay, sometimes out of the box standard component may be good, but if I have an industry specific one, which may be a little bit more complex to use at the first glance, but is fulfilling the need, might be the right one. So we bring in also our experience to maybe change their point of view as well a little bit. So it's learning both sides from each other.
What solution do you offer for automotive clients?
Well, mainly it's three types of solutions. The first is production. Production support. So we have components that can help within the communication of the factory automation. The second part is, test environment. We have components that can bridge in-vehicle communication. So all the small little ECUs, the computers within the vehicle, how they communicate with each other or to the outside, we can access that. And the third step, and that's becoming more and more important for the electric mobility, we can bridge those. That means in the production area where you need to test, on the one hand, control information to the factory automation, but on the other hand, you need to test battery, you need to test engine, maybe also inverters. And these things are communicating like a vehicle does communicate, not like a factory automation does communicate. We can bridge that gap with our products, with our offering.
Makrus, could you tell me about some real-life use cases?
Absolutely. So let's take the production of a battery, of a traction battery for an electric vehicle. There are different steps in the production. So you typically take the different modules, put them together to the battery pack, and you put in the battery control, the battery management system into that system. Now, to start up and run the test, like high voltage test and things like that, typically this battery needs to communicate with other parts in the vehicle. Well, these other parts are in the test environment of the production. They're just not there because there is no car. So what we can do is we connect our products, and the products can be enabled to simulate those things of the vehicle that are not there in the production process and simulate the signals out of those. This thing is called the RESPA simulation. And that's something we can do besides just the pure communication into the battery.
Another use case?
Let's stay with the electric background, let's put it that way. So when you have an engine, you want to test the electric engine on different load scenarios and different power scenarios, so like speed, like torque, things like this. This engine needs to be controlled with, so there is an inverter. The inverter needs to get the right signals to start with. And also this, you command this out of the factory communication, but the factory automation can only speak the languages that factory automation can speak, like Ethernet, with all the industrial Ethernets on that. But the vehicle, that's a thing, well, it speaks typically FlexRay, CAN, Automotive Ethernet, something like this. And we bridge exactly that gap, enabling the access from control, the factory automation, to the vehicle, the device under test. Let's take again the battery. It's a good example here. And the battery, well, typically the components are stored in the storage of the production company, and maybe software department has released a new software version for the battery. So when you produce the battery, we can help to identify the software version installed, pre-installed on the battery management system already, and accessing that. And we can take the new software, download it to the BMS, and update the software which is there. It's a simple use case, but again, this use case needs to communicate to the factory automation. And we can bridge exactly that part of communication. Even a real-life use case that might be a little bit getting out of fashion in the future with all the decarbonization things. But take a company that is producing gearboxes, for example. The gearbox will need to be individually tested during production process to simulate all the switching events, so gear shifting things. And this can be automized, and we are helping to communicate into the gearbox control unit. So more and more like when you do a factory automation test, we help that you have the complete execution of test process being communicated to the ECU there.
Talking about the future, what are your plans for the future?
Well, I have a very, very high aim. So we as HMS, we want to become the world's greatest ICT company, information communication technology company, for our customers. Well, with my product portfolio, I want to become, for our customers, and of course I want to grow that base, the most important ICT company in the area of vehicle production.